Is this coming through very good?
Yeah, do you want to hold the mic or do you want to stand?
Yeah.
That'll work.
There we go. All right.
First off, thanks for inviting me tonight. I appreciate this, and it's a nice crowd, which I was worried with Berkey too, I know. And I gotta tell you, it is nice not working Berkey. This was probably the worst week of the year for law enforcement, and it's a long one, so. It's nice to be up here instead of standing outside tonight in the cold. As Pastor Gary said, my name's Joel Clopero. I was with the City of Hayward Police Department for 22 years. I was many different positions. I finished up as the Chief of Police for 12 years, and then I left, and I'm now working for the state of Wisconsin for the Department of Veteran Affairs, and I am running the cemetery down in Spooner. And it'll be 3 years this summer already. It's crazy how fast it goes. So tonight I'm just here to talk to you about ways to enhance your home security and scams to be aware of, and I also thought we could touch a little bit on internet safety, because a lot of times we don't think about some of the most dangerous things we let into our house come in online, not through the front door. So that's always a good topic to talk on, and I actually was going to have a police officer here to talk to, and then he's like, I gotta work the Berkey. So I was hoping to get some updates on the most recent scams, but anyway. So most of the ideas I have tonight too are thoughts or things I've seen are things that are pretty easy to do and also cost effective, because we all know we could have the greatest security system, but most of us can't afford what the latest and greatest and all the best stuff is. But there is one way to do it for free, and that is to put up taboo flags in your yards of people that the federal government are going to be watching, and then the police and government will watch your house for free. So that's the one way to get around it, I guess. But for us less adventurous and exciting people, we'll have to stick to lighting, alarms, dogs, and common sense. So remember, the first thing is people who are generally looking to steal, do burglary, commit crime, are looking for an easy target. So the best thing you can do is make your place look good enough that they'll want to go down the road to the next place, and that individual wants to do the same. And ultimately, that stops a lot of crime. If you look like you are aware of what's going on, if you look like your property is squared away, organized, and you have an idea of what's going on, a lot of times that's enough to scare people with. That goes with, if you have lighting and stuff like that. So the biggest thing I can tell you is right off the bat, lock your doors, especially your car doors, because I would say 90% of the vehicles that were broken into in the 20-some years I was in the city of Hayward, the keys were unlocked. Very rarely, or the doors were unlocked, and then if they were stolen, the keys were in the car too. Very rarely did we go to a vehicle where someone smashed out the window and took something. Generally they'd steal stuff that was just in plain view and the car doors were unlocked. And it always amazed me how many people leave their keys in their cars. And I know sometimes a lot of us grew up in a time when things were different, so sometimes it's hard to get used to that, but we're well past those times where you need to, because there's always somebody out there looking to do something bad. So the best thing you can do is lock your doors. One thing in your house, a real easy thing to do, and this is from experience from being on SWAT team and doing search warrants, it is very simple. It's just in your door frames and stuff, any of the hardware for the locks. Don't use the screws that come with it. Get longer screws, get something a little better. You can use the same locks, but a lot of times if you just do that, it takes a lot longer for somebody to get through. They're making more noise. The more noise they make, the more likely someone's going to come across it, or you're going to hear it if you're sleeping in the house or whatever. So you're going to be aware of it. Again, like I said, they're always looking for an easy target. The other thing is leave your lights on. If you're gone, leave some lights on in the house. Have motion lights, so if someone pulls in your driveway, a light goes on. And make sure your lights are high enough that people can't reach them from the ground around your house, because a lot of times what we found out would happen is people go around, turn them off, or just unscrew them a little bit, and then that's how they because you'll find people will scope targets. So make sure your lights are high enough where they just can't reach up and do that. And then like motion lights outside that would eliminate any kind of hiding spots, because again, people like that are up to this kind of activities, they don't want to be seen. And the more difficult you make it for them to sneak around, the harder it's going to be for them to want to be there. Another big thing we found out is a lot of people watch Facebook, and a lot of people have friends on Facebook that they don't even know who they are. And then they post that, hey, I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks, or I'm going to go do something, we're going to go do this, or, you know, just be careful who you're talking to and who you're telling where you're going to be and what your plans are. And again, I hate to be the person, because I don't think people should be paranoid, but some of these things, it's like if you don't know people, you just have to be careful. The other thing is signs. Good old protected by Smith & Wesson, or you know, beware of the dog. Even if you don't have a dog, just put a sign up like that. Criminals, most people are afraid of dogs. When they hear a dog barking, that's usually enough to scare them away. So I always laugh when people have a dog in the house and they get mad when the dog barks, when somebody knocks or rings the bell. That's actually a good thing. That's what you want your dog to do. And then even like if you don't have a dog, leave a dog bowl or a dog bone on your porch. Because a lot of times, again, people come by and they will scout your property. They may come during the day, just knock on your door to ask a question or something, but they'll be looking around. And these are things that deter people that are up to no good. Another thing is on your property, if you have big bushy trees that are in areas that people could easily access your property, trim them up to height that people can't hide around them. And especially if it's like around garages or areas, if you have trees around your garages or your house, try to trim them up a little bit so that it's less hiding area for people. Or sometimes too, around house for landscaping, if you have a unfriendly plant, maybe something that has pickers or stick, you know, something that people don't want to walk right up to. Another great thing is if you can afford it, obviously highly recommend security cameras. But if you can't, put up a fake camera, because they're not going to know, and put a sign that this place is protected by whatever company, Permar or whatever. It does really work. But if you can, security cameras are really good. I can't tell you how many cases we solved, and not always because it was something that happened on that property, but because someone had a camera, we'd go around in houses nearby and say, hey, do you have, and then if they did, we'd maybe get pictures of who it was, and, or at least get a description or, you know, something, and then generally somebody knows who they are. So like, just make, also another thing, if someone is gonna break into your house, make it hard for them. So if you have sliding glass doors, put a stick down in the track so that it can't open when you're sleeping at night or when you leave for the day. Another thing is, if you can afford it, is put the film for like over your windows. It's this film that, so if your window's broken, it keeps it together. It's a very cheap fix. And what's nice about that, again, is someone goes to smash out your window, they gotta keep hitting it because it doesn't all just fall in. So again, they're making more noise, and they don't want to make noise, and it's more of a chance your neighbor might hear it, or especially if you're around other people. Another thing is, it always amazes me, is how many people don't know their neighbors. So get to know your neighbors, because if you're gone, you can just tell one of them, if you trust them, that is. And people will watch your, you know, you'll watch your house. I know we live out in the county. We have 2 neighbors that are pretty close, and we all keep eye on each other's property, and it's nice to know when you go. It just gives you a little extra sense that somebody's watching your property. Again, we kind of hit on the dogs thing. So inside your home, any of your valuables, jewelry, money, firearms, because those are the most desirable, especially firearms around here, have gun locks, have safes, and keep your stuff in there. So if they do get in your house, again, maybe they got in your house, but they're not going to get in your gun safe. They're not going to get in your safe. Just make sure your safe is big enough that they can't just walk off with it too, because that'll happen sometimes. Outdoor, again, lighting, even the solar lights, that motion solar lights are really nice. Those will work good. Anything that just make somebody aware that, oh, this person's got their stuff together. Landscaping around your house. Don't leave a giant rock or something big that somebody could pick up and throw through your window. If you're gonna have stuff, make it big enough so people can't just pick it up and toss it through your window or smash down your door. Make sure one thing we all sometimes are guilty of, we leave a spare key. Don't put it under the flower pot. Don't put it under the mat. Hide it somewhere where someone actually has to look for it. So just it's amazing how sometimes people will just leave that key right in the obvious position. One thing that a lot of people overlook is your mailbox. I would suggest never putting, if you're paying bills with a check, never putting into your mailbox and leaving your flag up. Because that's what people are looking for. They'll drive by, they'll go through your mail, they're looking for checks. That's how a lot of the check forgeries and frauds happen. I know that's winding down a little bit because people don't use checks as much, but I know this is how bad it can be. We had a case here probably 10 years ago, and the people started in California and came all the way across the country, and they were up in Washburn, Wisconsin, and my brother was a law enforcement officer up there, and somehow they got a description of a vehicle, and they called us, and we found it in one of our motels, and we went and found them, talked to them, ended up arresting them for stuff, did a search warrant, and they were going around the whole country stealing people's checks from mailboxes, and they ended up in Hayward of all places, and that's where it ended from them, so from California to Hayward, and so that was just one thing that was amazing to me, how many people will go around and they'll see your mailbox flag up and they'll go look through there, grab a bill, something that might have a check. So, just things to be more aware of. So I would suggest if you are doing it that way, I would just run it to the post office, drop it in one of the big heavy boxes, something like that. Same around Christmas time with your packages. There was always a lot of people, porch pirates, that are looking to steal your packages. So if you know you're getting deliveries, maybe one of your neighbors could pick it up and if you're gone or something like that. Just something to be aware of. Again, in your house even, or in your yard, don't leave anything that's very valuable out in plain sight. Like if someone walks by your window, you don't want to have a gun sitting on a table because this is an opportunity. Again, if you take away the opportunity, a lot of times that's enough to do it. And the other thing is too, is like close your garage up if you're not around or if you're not using it, because people will, again, go by. They might just stop in. Or garage sales are a perfect example. A lot of people would go to a garage sale, and the stuff that you have no interest in selling, that's what they're looking at to see what you have. So just kind of be aware of that. I know my wife and I, when we did one, I was like, okay, we're locking the garage, but we can move what you want to sell out of the garage. So, but I mean, there really is a lot of people that's what they do. Keep your vehicles locked again, remove your valuable stuff at the end of the day. I would say a large majority of firearms that were stolen during my time in law enforcement were stolen out of vehicles. Hunting season. Actually, my brother-in-law had a handgun stolen out of his vehicle. And people, sometimes you just make a mistake, you leave it, you forget about it, but if you try to be aware of your wallets, your guns, your watches, cell phones, anything like that people would want. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings and the route. I know like a lot of times, even as a law enforcement officer, we could get red because sometimes you get lazy, you do the same thing every day, you do the same route. People who are doing, I know this sounds crazy, because I always thought that too. I was like, yeah, if you're a criminal, how smart can you be? Well, a lot of them are really smart. They're just, that's what they prey off you. So they're watching for any weaknesses that you might do. So be aware of any cars that, if you see a car that's not normally in your neighborhood, or if somebody's suspicious, and it never hurts to just call it. The law enforcement will come check it out. But we always tell people, you know your neighborhood the best. So you're aware of what's going on. If something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right. And that, again, not to be paranoid, but if something doesn't seem right, just call. The other thing that are huge right now and are really good, doorbell cameras. It's amazing how much stuff is out there, how many people have them, and how many people are willing to share that information. I know we had one case where it ended up solving a homicide, which it really wasn't a homicide, but the family felt like their loved one had been murdered, but she had actually hung herself. And of course with suicide, a lot of times that's normal for a family to feel that way, but the neighbors had a Ring doorbell and it reviewed the whole night, the house, and you could see when she turned the lights off, you could see when she walked by the window, you could see when the person showed up that found her, that they suspected of it, and you know, all the reactions. So it was just amazing how, you know, that camera, in that case, it wasn't even what it was for, but how helpful they can be. And then just also, again, another thing is someone's in your yard, you get a picture of them, you have some information. Maybe it'll help your neighbor, and it might help you. Like I said, those things have been just amazing. And anytime you have information like that, I know your local law enforcement will really appreciate knowing if you have a Ring doorbell, because again, a lot of times when something bad happens, they go around to houses all over looking for that. I remember when the young lady from Barron was abducted, how we were going around everywhere checking to get, you know, where they might have cameras so they could try to route that out. And I know I've heard of other big cases nationwide that these Ring doorbells have really, really helped on. And again, like I said at the beginning, whatever you can afford for home security, if you can get cameras, if you can't, that's great in our alarm system. But if you can't, just doing some of these little tips are good things. Again, if you, you know, if you look like you're aware of what's going on, people are gonna think you're aware. It's kind of like, we always tease kids that, hey, dress like you know what you're talking about, because then people will think, oh, he does know what he's talking about. It's amazing how that works. The other thing that kind of falls into home safety is talk a little bit about scams and internet safety. And I can tell you the internet stuff, the stuff that goes on out there is crazy. The things that happen to our children, the things that our children are exposed to, it's unbelievable. I know with our kids, we have talked to them about stuff. We're try to be very careful with their use. I trust them. I should be able to, right? No, but they know that, and they also know the other thing with kids too, or your grandkids. Sometimes they're going to stumble across something that they shouldn't just by doing an honest search, because some of these search engines are set up so if certain words go up, they might pull up a pornographic image or something like that. So just letting your kids know, hey, if you come across this, let us know so it can be dealt with, versus being embarrassed because that oh, you're going to think that I was looking this up or something. Yes, ma'am.
How do you handle it when porno sites keep coming up? I mean, I've gone in and gotten rid of the search history, deleted it all, and they still come back up without anybody being able to search for it.
Yeah, I guess I honestly can't. I don't know how to tell you how to get rid of it.
I've had tech people look at it and say they don't know what to do, and I thought maybe if you've come across this.
Yeah, I guess I'd never heard. I know the only thing we could do, and I don't know that it would actually stop in the future, is when we could send stuff, we could get it wiped by like the crime lab. They could completely wipe the system out, but I don't know if it comes back after the fact, or unfortunately I don't know that.
I think it's linked by name or whatever, because I have a disabled daughter, and she is on YouTube, and she can't type. She just swipes, and she keeps getting these porno sites coming up, and I've had my daughter and son-in-law that we've absolutely wiped it, taken back to factory setting, put it back up, and they'll be in the YouTube again, and it's like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, I wish.
Other than watch over her shoulder all the time, you know.
And that's hard to do. It's not.
Well, it's next to impossible. But I mean, it's kind of weird that you can't block them.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any settings you can do with your internet.
She
through
tried.
the provider, and even with that, you can't.
She tried blocking. She went in. My other daughter went in and blocked all the sites, and they come in at a different name.
Okay.
I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
You can buy software.
You can buy software.
There's a program you can download an app on the computer and it'll block all the existing ones.
Good.
Oh, good.
What's the name of that? Do you remember?
that'd be
I'll
good
think
to
of
know,
it.
because
I'll
it's
think
not
of
like
it and let you
she's
know.
trying to
Mhm.
get there, it's just that, and it's not like she's watching them, but
Yep.
you're seeing her scroll through and it's like, holy cow. Okay, thought maybe you'd come across that, sorry.
No, but actually, I really, yes, I have heard though, now that you mention it, there is software out there, you are absolutely right. That can block pretty
I didn't
much,
know that.
at least what, like, exactly like you said, the known stuff that's out there,
Mhm.
it can block. Of course, there's always gonna be new stuff that comes up, but at least you're,
But then
You're
with the
gonna be on
software, you
top
can
of it.
identify if this is one of them and it'll
Yep.
add it to the list for everybody else.
yep, you can get an update.
That's good, that's cool,
Mhm.
cause parental controls don't work.
Software, there's stuff.
Okay.
Then again, just like who your kids are talking to, because a lot of times that 9-year-old that they're talking to might be a 45-year-old creeper that, and you know, so just so the kids are aware and they're sharing with you. And obviously you wanna have, your kids need some privacy and need to be trusted, but you still have to make sure you're doing that. So, I know, my wife had set some parental controls on when they got phones that, so there's certain things they can't do, or certain things they can't look at, or certain times that they can use their phones. So far, we've been able to trust them, so it hasn't been an issue, but I may be carrying around 2 phones someday, I don't know. Again, like I said, we tell them that they have space with their phones, but they also know if mom and I think something's up, they have to turn it over immediately to us. And I would have the same thing with your grandkids, that, hey, you know what, or your children, turn these phones over when they tell you. Again, kind of like I said, if they are looking on something, they find something that they didn't want to see or shouldn't have seen, just let us know so we can deal with it. And like I said, this honest search can trigger the worst things. So if your children do tell you that, there's a good chance they're telling you the truth. They weren't looking for something, they just found something by doing an honest search. Again, yeah, who are they talking to? We all heard all the stories about the predators that are meeting young people and having them, you know, identify, hey, I'm a 14-year-old kid too, come meet me. And like I said, it turns out they're a 30-year-old or something, and then all the bad stuff that happens with that. The other one, just to kind of touch on lightly, because I think we're getting close to our time, and that way if you have questions, is for scams. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Right? Nobody, if you win $1 million in a legit contest, first of all, you'd have entered the contest, but also they would not say, hey, if you send us $200,000 in this, we'll send you the rest of the money. It's amazing how many times it happens. And again, they know there's people, and we get it. I mean, people are in bad situations sometimes, and something really good sounds true, or even like on the dating websites, people feel somebody may start telling them what they want to hear, and it's hard not to, and pretty soon people are sending money to other people. Another one, the IRS or government agents won't call by your phone. They won't ask you for secure information that way. If someone says they're a government agent, like say, hey, I'm with the IRS, say, okay, I'm gonna hang up the phone and I'm gonna call back to the number or whatever it is. So that's a good way to get rid of them right away. And sometimes they'll get mean and they'll threaten you or whatever, but just, if you think it's a scam, just hang up the phone. And another one that we hear about quite a bit is the scam that, oh, your child or grandchild or nephew has been arrested. They're not gonna call you that way to get money. So if you're getting that call, again, they're playing on you're worried, hey, my kid's been arrested, and that's what they do. They play on good people's emotions. That's how the scams work. Or that good people trust people. Or, again, the vulnerable. I'm broke, and now someone offered me $50,000. All I gotta do is send them $2,000. So, and again, that if you're wiring money and it's not something kind of a deal you're involved in, it's probably a scam. Again, like I said, they prey on loneliness, vulnerabilities, and financial insecurity. And I will end it with, again, by saying, if it's too good to be true, it's it's not. Nobody's that nice. And what you know, maybe a relative. All right, well, that's all I got. Any questions?
Joe, I've got something here that the Adult Protective Service, agent brought over from the county last week, and it's, how I'll avoid a scam as an action plan. It's got different steps and stuff on here, and I have a bunch of them on the desk here if you wanna take them when you go. I'll give you one too, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
But, Rebecca from the APS for the Adult Protective Service person brought that over last week because the seniors, get a lot of scams, get a lot of calls and, don't know what to do. And I got one of those IRS calls one time saying, we owed them a bunch of money and stuff like that. And I played along for a while and I said it's a scam, and then I called the IRS and they said, thank you. It was like, especially like the IRS or any government agency that calls you and says that, like Joe said, they don't call you, they send you a letter. Call them because they keep a file of those scams. And what they explained to me, a lot of these people with scams, they're like in a great big room and they have like cubicles and they just keep dialing numbers until somebody answers, that phone, and then they can pull that information, out of you. So, but this is kind of like an action plan, so I've got it here on the desk if you want one.
Oh, one other thing real quick, then we'll get your
What?
questions.
Oh,
With scams too, is if you get stuff in the mailing, if the grammar is bad, or a lot of the stuff originates overseas, so English isn't their first language. So if it seems, there's a lot of grammar errors or stuff like that, that's something to watch out for. Yes.
I just want to let everybody know that locally, I do books for a nonprofit agency, and one of their staff received a letter in the mail from her bank saying that her account had been hacked and that she needed to call this number. She said it looked legit, it looked like their letterhead. She called the number and they hacked her account. She took it into the bank and they said, wow, they're sophisticated. This looks exactly like our letterhead. So that is also happening.
That happens to me too.
Yeah.
That's a credit union. I got a phone call and they left a message on my answer machine telling me to call this number right away that there was a problem with my account. And I didn't call the number that they wanted to call. I looked up the credit union in the phone book, called that number.
Okay.
And they said it was like 600 to 700 a day that they had already gotten. And I said, well, I have a message from them on my answering machine. So how do I call you back on my cell phone and play the message? So they reported it.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. Nowadays, it's got a lot more sophisticated with, you'll get local numbers, so it even seems more apt because they can put in numbers, random numbers, and they come up and it's just a big circular thing, and they're just waiting for somebody to pick it up. Because I know one time it looked pretty legit until they told me what bank it was, but it was a local bank even. I was like, I don't have any accounts there, so that's when I was like, yeah. But for a couple, even I was like, oh, that's weird. Because it did seem legit, it was a local number. It was, hey, you need to call because you overdraft, something like this. But yeah. so-
When she called the number off of that letter, they answered the phone, the bank name.
Oh, so they were new, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's how sophisticated they were.
And we do find out once you're scammed, very few people get their money back because most of it ends up overseas. And if it's under 10 grand, the FBI is not even gonna look into it. So there's just too much other stuff for them going on. So sometimes your bank will help you out if they're nice, but yeah. So just be very careful with that. Well, there's
I'll
no.
just contribute one thing, because I haven't had a whole lot happen to me, but all the time in my junk mail is, we're gonna pull this much money out of your account, thank you for your order.
Yeah.
Whether it's PayPal, Norton Virus,
Yeah.
I mean, we're pulling $452 out of your account, I just delete them all, but
Yes.
I know I don't have the account.
Actually, I'm glad
That's
you
a lot
mentioned
of
it. That's a really good one, because a lot of times IBM or computer software, they'll call, because most people have a computer and say, hey, we need to do this to your software. Again, anything like that, if it just doesn't seem right, just call the company or see somebody local in town and say, hey, is there anything wrong with my computer? So yeah, they are looking though. That's a very good, through the mail and yep. All right, well, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it.
That was an excellent presentation. Yeah.